Welcome to Let's Play Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit, Episode 6, and where it is now time for us to head over to track number 6 in this game, which is going to be Lost Canyons, and after 5 rounds in the tournament, I hold a 3-point lead over Ice, and Bullet, up to this point, now looks like he's dropped out of contention. And so, all I really have to do now is just keep scoring consistently, and then hopefully I can keep myself running hot. And as for the car, well, could use the Diablo, but I think for this attempt I'm going to use the Ferrari. And as for the colour, well, sure, why not? Let's drive this thing in yellow, because I want to keep changing my choices. And so, I'm now going to review the track info for Lost Canyons.
Prepare to drop out of sight, as this course takes you from ground level into the depths of the canyon floor in seconds. Now's the time to balance your speed with steering technique. Varied wide bank turns, joined by snug chicanes, make it difficult to plow through at top speed here. This challenging stretch of winding road dips drastically in places, serving up consecutive jumps and sudden turns. Be alert and watch your speedometer. Pick a path on this multi-leveled roadway, and hang on. Big air and bigger speeds are the rewards for the adventurous driver here.
Right, so yeah, there is that. And so, let's now continue with the beginner tournament, as of which, it is now time for us to head over to Lost Canyons. And hopefully, I can just continue to do what I have been doing, which is limiting the damage even if I'm not going to win the race. So, it looks like a two-way battle up to this point, but obviously, if Bullet does manage to win this race, then he could very well get himself back into contention for at least second position. Okay, that previous attempt didn't happen.
3, 2, 1, go!
I just chose to restart because apparently the game itself already reached the starting screen before I could finish. So I think, as far as I know, if I can win this race and finish second in the final 2 races, then it should be enough for me to hopefully win the championship by a slim margin. As of which, coming into this race, I do have a as of which, up to this point, I do have a 3-point lead heading into race number 6, and then I think after this one we have just 2 races remaining. And already up to this point, I can definitely tell when this race has been a pain in my ass. As much as I've really been trying my hardest to avoid the calamities that have just been happening to me left, right and centre, they just literally keep finding a way to just make those calamities happen about as much as I try my hardest to avoid them. I keep trying to avoid them, but yet they keep getting me involved in them. And that is basically the one thing that's just been pissing me off the most. It's not the track, it's not my overall performance, it's just these AI. It's just these AI making this race even more shit than it already needs to be. And overall, it's just been leaving me deprived on more or less the fisherman's hook. As in, like, I've basically been the fly and they've more or less been the piranhas, just waiting to pretty much just waiting to dislocate and break every bone in my body. More or less. So, I think the two men I need to stay ahead of up to this point in the championship are basically Ice and Bullet. I mean, even though Bullet is still in mathematical contention
Lap 2.
for the championship, the truth is they're the two guys I need to stay ahead of in order for myself to essentially win this championship without having to cope with too much pressure. And this run has actually been going better than I thought it was going to go. Considering this is, I think, already attempt number 6 of me trying to do this, so that's literally how difficult it's been to just try and avoid every single calamity imaginable around this circuit. As in, like, I've really been trying my hardest to avoid the chaos, but yet the AI always have to find a way to get me in the chaos. And Ice is still running in second, but I couldn't tell you who's in third place at the moment, but whoever it is, they're running pretty good as far as I know. And the pack is pretty close at the moment, so if I do end up making a mistake up to this point, I don't think I'll lose too much time. Since the gap from the previous sector was 2.8 seconds. That could have gone better, but anyways. I can at least say that up to this point by now I'm still keeping my championship aspirations alive. I think there might be a conspiracy somewhere that tells the AI to just basically wreck me willy-nilly. I mean, I know that's probably just a conspiracy, but I think what they're basically trying to do is just intentionally wreck me so I don't end up winning the championship. Well, at least I can say that wasn't bad enough to be a big one. And Ice has now taken the lead away from me. And I think I should have used the Lamborghini for this one, but again, I opted not to because I figured I would make this more of a challenge. And boy, has this fucking race been a challenge.
That's your best lap, lap 3.
Anyways, onto the third and penultimate lap we go, second to last, and just really hopeful in saying that up to this point I do not have a big one, since we're into the second part of this race. That could have gone a lot worse if I was only an inch closer. And obviously, I think by the time I've done this race I'll probably call it a day, considering it is nearly... Considering it's nearly 3:45 PM where I am. That's literally how long it's taken me to just get through this one race. I know I don't have to win it, but again, it would be nice if I could win it, and then basically from here, of course, all I'll have to rely on is consistency. Because consistency is the key to winning the championship. And I'm still continuing to get a bad exit out of that shortcut. So shortcuts are definitely proving, of course, to be useful in this game from what I can establish. I would say Rocky Pass has more or less been the easiest, but this one is definitely one of the hardest to surpass in my honest opinion, let alone finish. But I'm hopeful in saying this might be the attempt where everything goes my way, hopefully. And unfortunately, Ice is still running in second, so it's not over yet. But if I can have...
That's your best lap. It's the final lap.
But officially, if I can go for damage limitation on this final lap, then hopefully I might be able to make it 3 wins in 6 races. And then I think that's probably all I really need for the rest of the championship. Because realistically, overall, I've just been dreadful at trying to get through this circuit without having a crash. It's just really been a pain in my ass trying to survive this one track without having any big ones, and at the moment I've actually not had any big ones up to this point. And well, it's probably taken me less than an hour to try and get through this. So, certainly not one of the longest challenges I've had to strafe my way through. I mean, I've definitely had to go through longer challenges than this one, just to try and surpass, let alone finish. So this certainly isn't the hardest thing I've done in a video game ever, but it's certainly one of the harder tasks that I've had to withstand myself with. Also, furthermore, this is another super long lap, so pretty much anything can happen up to this point, but I'm just hoping I will be the one that manages to survive. But I'm just hoping up to this point that I will be the one who manages to survive this portion of the race, because that would be good. If I can survive, then hopefully that will be this race done and dusted, if I do not have any more major incidents up to this point. Wow. I literally power slided my way through that right-hander. And shifting up into 6th gear, and...
That's your best.
Yes!
You won the race!
Finally! That's all I really had to do. I literally just had to win the race, and then pretty much all pressure would be off.
Congratulations! You've got a top 10 time for this track.
Thank God. Jesus, that race was a bitch. To finish, let alone. Basically, to finish, let alone survive. Let alone win. But there we go, I've won the race. And overall, I set the 3rd best overall lap time in my Ferrari 550 Maranello. So, I get a top 3 for the first time, and these are the other stats. So, let's move on. And all I have to do now is just get my traditional thumbnail. So, won that race in the end by 2.8 seconds over ice. Blazin finished in third in the second of the 3 Ferraris. Bullet was fourth ahead of Terror. Swerve was sixth. Carcass finally manages to break that 8th placed jinx. He's had up to this point, and Tad was last in the second of the 2 Ital designs. So, let's now do the replay. And ultimately, overall, I need some water because that race has really killed my throat. So, all I had to do was just win the race, and then all pressure would be off, more or less.
1, go!
So again, not going to... Oh, sorry about that if you heard my finger touching the mic. But anyways, I think that pretty much means, up to this point, all pressure is off. So all I need to focus on now is just finishing second in the final 2 races, limiting the damage as much as I can, and if I can finish second in the final 2 races, then ultimately... Wow. I was literally airborne for that one particular section. But all I really had to do was just limit the damage as much as I could, and then, obviously, if I could manage to go for the race win, then I would get the race win. Simple as that. Just basically had to stay ahead of my rivals in order to do it. But, anyways, point is, we now have 2 races left, and all I have to do is finish in second for both of those 2 races, and then the championship should be mine by 2 points. Okay, I think that should do it for the thumbnail shots. But anyways, Lost Canyons is complete. And we now have just 2 races left. And so, there we go. Heading into the final 2 races, I have a 4-point lead over Ice. Bullet by now has pretty much dropped out of contention in terms of being a championship contender. Swerve is still 4th, and we do have a tie for 5th between Terror and Blazin. Tad is still very much holding on to 7th position, and Carcass is still in last. And the next circuit we're going to is... Aquatica again. So, stay tuned for more of the Hot Pursuit.